Hey guys, welcome back to the Sensitivity Doctor. This is Dr. Amelia Kelley. Welcome to part 2 with Lindsay Abernathy from Bitch is a Bad Word podcast. I loved talking to her so much in our first sit down that we literally ran out of time and didn't get to give you guys the how-tos, the support, and the inspiration for finding your person, your love, that next stage, finding yourself again after abuse. So if you want to jump back to part 1, if you didn't listen to that yet, we talked about her story and how she knew she was in an abusive relationship, and then part of what allowed her to finally break free from it, and hopefully can help you too. In this episode, we dive into all different aspects of finding yourself again, finding your intuition, finding your voice. And I don't know, I think we could manage to have a lot of fun doing it too. I just absolutely love her. She's amazing. We've truly formed a podcaster friendship, and I'm excited to jump back on her podcast again soon. And I also want to say to any of you who have been listening to this series of episodes, I know the last one probably brought up a lot of different views, different opinions, a lot of feelings and emotions. And I really feel like we were able to maybe address some of those in this episode. So this is definitely one to sit down and, just really absorb and see how you feel, and reach out and let me know if there's anything you want to share about this topic. And finally, and last of all, what do you want me to call you all? We got into this really funny conversation about how she calls her followers and her listeners besties, and I cannot figure out my sensitive family's name. So if you have any ideas, make sure to hit me up or message me or drop a comment in the links of the episode, and let's think of something together. So I hope you have a good time with us today, me and Lindsay, and our conversation. Enjoy. I am super stoked you're back because our last conversation was supposed to be this conversation. And then it became a totally other conversation because you're just so open and honest, and I really appreciated that. I feel like people probably walked away being able to really reflect on their own relationships a bit more and have a touch point to kind of compare with. And your authenticity is awesome. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. That means so much. I try to be as raw and real as I can be.
We've accomplished that.
Sometimes I'm like, did I say too much?
No, I don't think so. But one thing I was hoping to do that we could chat with everyone listening to today is, okay, so now that they've come to realize this, how do we move forward and feel like we can trust ourselves when choosing love again, or even just choosing to love ourselves again, with the little kind of, I guess, bridge or teaser that I feel like blame is the bridge. Kind of like, who's to blame? Do I blame myself? Do I blame them? Who's blaming me? I feel like that plays a big role in what blocks people from moving on.
Yeah, I would agree to that as well. Mm-hmm. Because you sit in a cycle of you ruminating and wondering what you did wrong or what you could have done better or how. And remember, you spent a lot of your relationship with somebody who constantly gaslit you, made you question your decisions, made you, go against your own gut feelings. So I think it takes a little while, or let me rephrase, a long while, to trust your gut again, trust your instincts, trust yourself, and realize that I always say I wasn't an equal participant in the, abuse that was in any relationship. But what I will take accountability for is that I hadn't healed properly from a prior relationship going into this new relationship. So I think that I was somewhat of a sitting duck. I feel like I was ultra vulnerable, super easy to manipulate. And then I was pretty low self-esteem wise. I was a single mom, and wow, this person's interested in me. And so this must be so amazing. And that but again, when you share those vulnerabilities, they come back at you at times well, this is you're so lucky I'm with you because you're a single mom with 2 kids. So those thoughts would be in my head. But going back to what I don't think I had done was I didn't do the proper healing I needed to do, leaving my first relationship and really understanding myself and really feeling, secure in my space and with myself. So coming out of this, like the last abusive relationship, I think what I learned that I can look back really easily and say, I can pinpoint the moments. Yep, here I was just ripe for the taking. I ate up every single word. I ate up all the breadcrumbs, and I mistake it all for a giant feast. And now I can sit and say, I don't need to be completed by somebody in order to be a baddie. I don't need to be in a relationship with someone to justify my worth. I don't need to have a partner. I don't need to have, I just need to have me, and I need to be the best version of myself for myself. And I need to show up that way every relationship and every time. So I think, what I always bring it back to, like, my idea of like romantic love. And I always sort of believed, like, I came from a family that was divorced. I idolized my friends' families that were married and weren't living through divorce. And then here I was, oh God, here I have kids. I'm repeating the same patterns. I'm divorced. I'm now again. And so I carried a lot of shame. And I think I was just pretty eager to find the partner that could could complete me and make my family complete. Mm-hmm. And that's not reality, because didn't make a great choice, obviously. But what I think I know now is that I would much rather be alone or be on my own than to ever bend or change or be somebody I'm not for somebody else.
This is actually bringing up something that I'm really almost confused or curious about. I think because anyone listening who's been listening to the series that you are now part of, I had checked in with you that I had a pretty contrasting conversation with someone about this topic. And the idea around blame came up in relation to unhealthy, abusive relationships. And something that stuck out to me from that conversation that was, I heard it and it made sense, and then it also was honestly disturbing and scary to hear, was the way that the other person sees the sitting duck. And what I mean by that is this: the other person, at least this was the reference from episode that just came before yours, that they felt like there was part of them that needed to heal the other person, and then that fed them some kind of sense of worth or healing by healing the other person. So it's like this idea that, and the word healing can be really misconstrued and manipulated, because when we hear healing, it's like, oh, this person wants to help me. They want to make me a better person. They want to show me their ways. They want to, all the things that really are kind of like criticisms under the radar. Mm-hmm. And then when their version of helping you or healing you or guiding you or loving you doesn't go exactly how they envision, it hurts and it creates rupture and fissure and trauma bonding. And that person said something about the perfect victim, which makes me think of how you're saying the sitting duck. Mm-hmm. So listening to it being intellectualized on the other end was a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy.
It is.
I do think that person, I don't want to date them. That's for sure. I think that's a very...
I think it's very common. That's why I left it. That's why I left it in the show.
Yes. So I think that was a very similar situation that I experienced. And then I believe that this is absolutely an experience that I know that other people have described being in. And when I say the sitting duck, it's like I'm just sitting there and I just envision myself, and like these soggy breadcrumbs are being thrown in my face, and I'm like eating them all up, like, oh, this is perfect. And, I'm just like, thank God someone's here to feed me and like take care of me and solve my problems for me and fix me. But what happens is, just like you were mentioning, that is a pretty narcissistic like trait, a grandiose, like, I'm going to fix you, I'm going to heal you, I can solve your
Yes.
problems, it's me. When
Yes.
healing is like our own independent journey and it's up to us. And
100%.
I'm like, so I can see this person now. At the beginning, you sort of see Prince Charming, someone sweeping you off your feet. I'm going to solve all your problems. I'm going to be here to fix everything. But if you don't repair in the way that I envision, and you don't fall in line to, you know, how I want you to be, then of
Right.
course I can see the blow up. Of course I can see somebody being so, upset that you healed beyond their wildest dreams, or you grew in a way that they weren't anticipating or planning for. And then you, as the person who's done the healing, is sitting back completely confused, going like, well, what the hell? Like, why are you mad? Why are you upset with me? Why do you now hate me? Back to that devalue valuation.
Right.
They're now devaluing you because you basically didn't do what they wanted you to do. They want you to be like the puppet, and they're the puppet master. They want you to do exactly what they want when they want it, but that's like not real. You can't make somebody, like, we're humans, we're not
Right.
programmable. So the perfect victim, typically, at least the people that we talk to on our show, are usually coming from some sort of trauma. They're usually coming from some unhealed parent wound. They're usually coming from some sort of, situation where they're not sitting in their power and
Right.
they're easily manipulated. And if then, as we've said, like, the power and control happens so quickly, the charming happens so quickly, the inventory intake is happening so quickly that, by the time you realize what's gone on, you are in love or love bombed and trauma bonded by that, you know, love bombing. And it's really hard to get out of it. And then
Right.
you're constantly now apologizing for the person you've become. And you're constantly trying to morph and change into whatever person they want you to be. And, like, mind you, that person that they want you to be is going to change every moment. That's kind of the game.
Right.
They want you to do this. And then once you do that, then they're like, oh, they push the goalpost. And so you're constantly chasing some sort of, fantasy that they have in their head, and you're never going to be good enough.
And I think if I consider our idea of how do we equip people listening with, okay, what do I do? I almost want to throw like a white flag. I don't know, not a white flag, a green flag. A white flags.
I'm like, get me out.
Truce. Leave me alone. No, but like a green flag would be, um, I've been in my relationship for a very long time, and we've gone through lots of trials and tribulations in life and all the things. And there's these moments in, I think, a long-term non-abusive relationship where you're going to have to grieve your partner as life continues to change and evolve, and the partner you thought you had is no longer the partner that you chose, and it's just and I don't mean this in an unhealthy way, but in a evolutionary way.
Mm-hmm.
And if the person you're with is so stuck on you staying exactly as you were packaged, before you were a mom, before you were a college grad, before you lost your parents, whatever your life situation is, to me, the green flag is that they might be uncomfortable with your change and there might be some struggles that happen, but it's not at a deep critical level of like who you are as a person. It's just like, oh, this is hard. We need to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the red flag would be, oh no, you don't get to evolve. You don't get to change. This is not the prepackaged. This is not the toy I bought.
Yeah.
Basically.
I was just about to say, they only think of you as a thing and as an
Yeah.
object. So you are the thing in the box that they want to keep on the shelf, and you're the collector item. They don't want to take you out and be played with and changed. And, every doll I ever had, I cut their hair. I like, no, it's very true. In a healthy relationship, it's been said that you're going to be married to a different person as you evolve. And thank God. I mean, you want somebody in a healthy relationship to grow and change, and their interests, you stay together, you stay aligned in certain ways, but you're looking at your partner being their hype person. Like, hell yeah, you've just like, look at you, you've changed, you've so much. And then, now, you're having a lull or a bad decade or whatever it is, like things are
Right.
difficult. It
Right.
doesn't mean that they're defective, but the pathological abusive person, I say this, it's rules for thee, not for me. So that means they can do the changing, they can do this work, they can go on, they can do all of the things and evolve and grow in whatever capacity or change jobs or move this or
Right.
their opinions change. And you have to stay there saying, like, it's supporting it. But if the other person wants and grows naturally and evolves, wants to change the job, was a stay-at-home mom, now wants to go to work, was this, now that person, the pathological person, is, I think, pissed. And I think that
Yeah.
because they can't remember, they just want control of you. If you're growing in a direction that they hadn't pre-planned, how do they adopt and adapt and change their control over you? They can't. They see you. That growth is a scary thing for people that want to control you. So they would, which, I mean, I think if we're real, it's really hard for a person that's in an abusive relationship to grow because you are in that silo. You are, seeing the world only through the eyes and the lens that they want you to see it. So I think, and then growth is very manipulative. I remember very vividly dressing a certain way and then it just sort of like dropping hints that they didn't particularly like the way I dressed, or now that I'm this, or I'm in this stage of my life, I should. And so that shopping was like, we always went shopping together and I thought it was romantic and cute. And now I'm like, that's fucking not okay. And it, like, everything, I looked very different. I went from, excuse me, the person that I am and how I feel comfortable, like, fine to grow, excuse me, and evolve your style or whatever. But like, it went from one way that I really enjoy dressing to like very conservative. And then there was like, friends will even tell me, they're like, man, freaking talking to you during COVID, you were drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, it was really difficult to have a conversation with you because you were just, and I found myself going, wow, well, I didn't really spend any time with anybody else. So I was just truly drinking the Kool-Aid of what they told me. And so I was very much growing, but I was like growing as like an appendage to this
Oh,
person,
that's a
not
good way to put it.
independently.
So if someone is deciding they're done with the relationship they were in, they're trying to figure out how to choose someone going forward, what we're talking about is kind of things that you can see over time. Like, you can detect these things with within like the scope of the relationship. What about someone who's on their first date? Or even, honestly, even some of my clients will tell me about their interactions on like these dating sites, and I can already call the red flags even on the dating sites.
Oh,
Are there
let me
anything?
tell you, I have to tell you this
Yeah, please.
little story time with
Story
Lindsay.
time. Get your tea.
I gonna spill some tea. I was on a dating app at one point,
Uh-huh.
and I was on this app, and I was scrolling through. I connected with somebody, and they sent me a message, and they're like, pretty much right away, "Oh, you're so pretty. You're like all this stuff. I'd love to go on a date with you. Would you want to go?" Like, oh, it was the botanical gardens. And I was like, I can't figure out if that's like a good date or not a good date. Like, for a first date, that's kind of weird. Like, you have to get a ticket and you have to be in there, and then you're sort of stuck on this. I don't know. I was like not sure that I really liked the idea of where we were. I'm like, what about just coffee somewhere? Or,
Yeah.
I had never been on a dating app before, and I had
Yeah.
very like not been dated, whatever, dating for a very
We'll
long
use
time.
it as an action word.
It's an action. I have not been dated in a long time. And I'm scrolling through, and I just remember feeling like the pressure. There was like pressure in the
Yeah.
DM. And then I'm scrolling through the photos, and I went back and I scrolled one more time. Thank God, because I see at that last picture is a picture of this guy and two kids. And I was like, I know those two kids from somewhere. How the hell do I know those kids? And I'm thinking like, okay, they're definitely not anybody that goes to like my kids' school, but I know these kids. And so I spent a little bit of time deep diving through my Facebook to see if I could match these kids. And it turns out that I matched with a guy who is an acquaintance of mine, who's now a good friend, who we used to go out for like a supper club together. And she told me about her husband who had been caught with like 195 hookers throughout
At
their
the
marriage.
botanical garden. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. That's where he met me. I was like, that's where he found them all. And like hundreds of hookers
Oh my goodness.
throughout their marriage. And they had moved from like a very prominent place, like in NorCal. He'd moved the entire family down south and then bought them a house to basically dump her in and was like, yep, dumping you and the kids, and I'm moving on with my life. I'm like, of fucking course, I'm going to match with the psychopath. So then,
but you slowed down and like listened to your gut though. That's I think super important here.
I did.
That's the moral of your story.
The moral of my story is that it was like, I definitely felt, and perhaps dating apps are pretty cool because you're not on, like, you have that, internet wall or whatever.
Right.
Where I could say, wow, like if this person was saying this to me in my face, I don't know that I'm healed enough or have the self-confidence enough to say no yet, because I was working on that word. I was always a yes girl and a sorry girl. So at least I could be like, this feels fast. It feels like, which it was. And then when I responded, turns out that I know your ex-wife. He goes, how would you like to proceed?
How would you like to proceed? Wow.
I'm like, I'd like delete. Like,
I would not like to proceed.
I would not at all. And because I even said, well, this is awkward. I know your ex-wife. Like, basically implying, I know all of your dirty secrets.
Right.
Freaking nasty guy.
It's almost like he was trying to see if that was the end of the opportunity.
Oh yeah, he was. And are you cool with what you know?
Circle yes or no.
Yeah.
You know what though? Something you said, yeah, right. Like there's so many things. Look at the menu. But you said something actually I think is a good thing that anyone listening might be able to put in their little toolbox though. Mm-hmm. And this is something I encounter in therapy a lot, where people get this idea that they have to be good at everything. And we don't have to be good at everything. None of us are good at everything. So sometimes people will be better at saying no or practicing no for the first time via text. Or sometimes you're better at it over a DM, or maybe you're killer at it in person. I wonder if part of this is going really slow in the stage where you do feel the most comfortable saying no, knowing that once you cross that like threshold into the next stage, it will feel harder for you to do that. So being more cautious during like that first stage before getting to that point where you're like, okay, now we've gone on a couple dates. And what do you think?
Yes. So their mask slip happens sooner than I think we realize. And if we're paying attention and we are confident in ourselves, like the second, I'm pretty positive that had I met that person in public first and had not, knew who he was, I probably would have ended up on a couple dates with him and being charmed because I wouldn't know. It's not like he's going to bring his kids on the first date, but I probably at that point, it would have been harder for me to say, like, be as like, dude, I know what's up. Like I was behind that DM, and a couple dates in, perhaps I would have maybe even justified. Well, he's
sex positive.
He's actually, yeah. And it's me. I'm the person that's going to fix him. Like that's because I will say that's how I went into my last relationship, is like, I see all your problems. I see your trauma. I understand. And I can be the one that's going to love you right. And I'm going to be the one, like, we're going to heal each other. I'm going to fix. Again, that's like, that's a big thing for me to even say, like, I'm going to fix your problems, but I'll be the person that you need to always show up as the man that you've charmed me that you are, right? So I could have potentially been in a situation with this guy where I'm saying, I'm eating it up. I'm like, oh, well, I'm sure he would have taken me somewhere really nice. I'm sure he would have been charming. I'm sure he would have shown me the best part of him. And maybe it would have gone on for a couple
Yeah.
dates. I don't know how I would have felt necessarily, but looking back, so to kind of answer that question, I think we do need to take a second and realize that our intuition and our bodies are really paying attention more than our mind is wanting to
Good point.
hear. So when you meet that person and they do give you those butterflies, those are not a good thing. Butterflies are your nervous system telling you that something feels like you're not regulated and something feels a little bit dangerous. Now, if you're like me, I like a little danger, I like a little bad boy, I always have, but none of those boys ever did anything good for me. And I always liken this. So I'm in a relationship that is very healthy. Now, we're not rushing it. What it didn't, but you know what he didn't give me is butterflies. And then I was like, this is boring. I feel kind of like this, my body feels bored. My body doesn't feel like it's like on a
Because the
freaking roller
alarms aren't going
coaster
off.
upside
Yeah.
down. Yes. So I think safety, what might feel if you've always been in a relationship with somebody who's toxic or pathological or bad boy, is going to feel boring. And you're going to be maybe looking for something to spice it up, or you're going to maybe think, wow, they're safe.
Yeah.
So find the person who makes you feel safe. Find the person who is asking you questions, who isn't just sharing how fabulous they are and how, amazing. I would even go just that much as like, I got off the apps after that. I never went back on. And then I met my partner now, like at a bar. And so I will say, I'd be curious to see, what do their socials look like? How much are they like flexing their cars or their job or whatever?
Right.
Because that's, as we know, everything online is not reality. But I would almost be inclined to tell anybody listening that you need to take it extremely slow, to the point where it's like it feels boring. And then maybe it's like some phone calls. I don't know. This sounds like, can we go back to the landline or go back to really just meeting someone? Yeah, exactly. Cause like every time you meet in person, it's all exhilarating and you're excited. And, unless you're at the point that you can really just like own yourself and you're like, I'm here to have a good time, and whatever that looks like, I'm going for it. Until you're at that stage, I think coming out of a relationship that was unhealthy, toxic, abusive, you really need to heal yourself and spend some time with yourself, and relearn the things that you were conditioned to think you like
Right.
by your ex.
And what is it?
Because you're going to find I think you're going to find a similar person if you don't
Yeah.
do that.
I really relate when I think about the period of time where I was dating before I met, because I was in a long-term relationship through like college and then moving to North Carolina. And then there was like this period of time in between that and when I met my husband. And I remember this one date I went on with a guy that it didn't work out, obviously. I dropped my fork 4 times at dinner. I was so physically uncomfortable and bumbly. Do you know what I mean? Like my nervous system
Yeah.
wouldn't, and it was deeply embarrassing because it was at this like really fancy restaurant. And something was just signaling to me. I think when I'm listening, I didn't know it at the time, but I feel like my body couldn't settle. And then I think about when I met my husband, who it was kind of one of those friends and that whole thing. And then, it wasn't like an out of the gate type of situation. I remember, because I'm glad you brought up the word bored, because I've had a lot of clients who struggle with boredom. These are some of mine are trauma situations. Some of them are ADHD, because ADHD brains love dopamine and love like novelty. But I think there's this sweet spot in the middle too, that for anyone who's like, I don't want to just be bored, where I didn't feel like the roller coaster butterflies like you're talking about either when I met my husband, but I felt like a warmth. So it's like you're still feeling like a draw or an attraction to the person, but it doesn't have that like sickening feeling.
Well, it's true. The lovesick feeling, the like desperate feeling, or that's what's going to come if you don't listen to those
Right.
signs. You're going to get like be there because again, they're just going to breadcrumb you. So then you'll be like desperate for the next phone call, or the desperate for the date that they're going to cancel, or they're not going to show up, or whatever they do. But the person that has that, that is boring, and definitely like my partner is not boring by any stretch of the imagination, but my body felt very
Yes.
safe. And that's just sort of, I felt
Right.
safe. I felt just, like we held hands. We both talk about this. Like we both like held hands the first time, like walking like this, like with our hands,
Like
whatever,
the church and
like
steeple thing.
steeple.
Yeah.
Yeah, the steepled together hands.
Open the church and here's all the people.
So I'm like, I don't know. So that's how we held hands, and we were like, wow, we hadn't done that like with somebody, or it felt comfortable, it felt safe. And then he's felt just like my friend. It felt very like my companion. I'm going to say this. Wow, I'm going to piss off a lot of men here. He felt like my equal. He felt like somebody that was just, hey, we're both freaking rad people just having this experience. He didn't, it wasn't a superior. He wasn't looking down on me. He wasn't this. It was like not, he's like a emotionally intelligent, like man, like was a hype man, could be excited for you as a woman. And, I talk obviously about a lot of women's issues and women's rights. And it wasn't like, oh God, here she goes again. He's like, yeah, full support, and that to me is cool. And when you get to that point, I think too, even when you're meeting someone, if you have reached a point where, I wasn't single for like years or anything, but I did a lot of soul searching in that time. And I did a lot of just like, I'm very comfortable if I don't ever meet anybody again. I'm very comfortable if I'm just in this space. I don't need someone to take care of me. I don't need somebody to save me. I'm going to save my damn self. I will tell you this though, Amelia, I did write down in a book, I manifested what my perfect man
I did
would
the
look
same
like
thing.
or be.
My God. I always joke I
Okay.
should have put rich. No, I'm just kidding.
So much. I try to keep his identity pretty tight, but so much so that down to drives a truck, blue eyes, and not American. And the list is like, I think 20 things long. And of those 3, he checked all 20 boxes, but like those very specific things. And when he like pulled up to pick me up from a date, like in the truck, I phoned my friend who saw, we worked on the manifestation together. And I was like, oh my fucking, he's in a truck. Cause I met him without, like, I didn't know the car that he drove. And I was like, oh, he's got blue eyes and he's not from America. I'm Canadian, not like no problem with Americans, but I just had like this specific thing. I wanted an accent.
I put doesn't have I put keeps their car clean and doesn't tailgate on my list. So
oh, there you go.
It could be anything. It doesn't have to be
anything you want. But you should manifest. I think we are underestimating. And I kind of bring this up to say this. The manifestation works and it's real because you're putting something out into the world. As we're all energy, and not to seem all woo-woo, but like as we're energy, we have to remember that when we're sitting on the other side of a table with somebody, just like you were all thumbs with your forks, that's an energy vibing. Your energy and his energy are communicating before we are realizing what's happening, in my opinion. And that energy was feeling off, just sort of like where you meet somebody and you're like, oh, I didn't like their energy. Oh, it felt off. Or that's like, we really need to sort of, not just sort of, but really pay attention to the way somebody makes us feel in that first moment. Because I do think that that energy cycle is, or your better angels are trying to push you into another direction. So manifestation, listening to your body, listening to the energy, listening, and then just feeling like, if this isn't cool, if you don't feel good, I say this all the time. I'm trying to teach my daughters this. Get up and walk out.
You don't even need to have an excuse like call me at 5 and tell me there's been an accident. You can just literally say like, hey, I don't think this is This isn't it. Great time, but
Yeah. Can you page me
I know, right?
911?
Run by the run by the restaurant with the sign. You know what? The thing with manifesting too, like from a psychological standpoint, to like throw my little clinical nerd moment in on this, is that when you get out of an abusive relationship or something unhealthy, and you are fixating on what you don't want to get yourself back into, we have to remember you're still fixating on the negatives, right? You're
Hmm.
still watching out for, I don't want a liar, I don't want a cheater, I don't want an abuser, I don't want someone who's going to devalue me. And then what that does is it just really closes your blinders around the things that you could see. With my clients, sometimes I talk about, like, if you're on a bike going down a path, and I say to you, ride straight. Like, that person is there. They're straight. Keep going. That person, that career, that wish, that hope, that spiritual awakening, whatever. It's at the end of the path.
Hmm.
Ride straight, but look to the right the whole time. Don't hit a tree. Like, look to the right, watch out for the trees, but ride straight. Like, you can't do it. So if we're constantly scanning and being hypervigilant for what we don't want, those blinders are so strong, they keep you from seeing the things you do. And I think that's why what you were saying with manifesting is such a powerful exercise.
That's such a really great way that you describe it, because I was like instantly stressed when you started talking, like my armpits started sweating. But what's important too is, why are we saying I don't want all this shit? Like, don't even think about that, because like that is also potentially coming in your life. The more, even just you thinking about it and not
Yes.
wanting it. But even further, let's say for me, I want to be healthy. I want to have a growth mindset. I want to, so focusing on, like attracts like, and we are, putting it out there, and we're working on ourselves, and we're saying, these are all the qualities that I want to have in myself. And then you're going to attract the partner who matches
Right.
that. But I was like, again, finding my last, I would say, multiple relationships prior, I was not in a good spot. I wasn't. I was like, I wasn't sure what I wanted. I wasn't sure who I was. I had a very clear path, and it was very different from everybody else's. And I always grew up like I was like, I'm going to be in the film industry. I'm going to be a disc jockey. And everyone was like, what? That's so weird. Like, and anyway, so I was in this weird space where everybody just sort of had a clear path. And so I was always feeling different than everybody. And then I didn't have a solid home life. So then I was that like different from and everybody should have been probably fostered and nourished by a healthy parent, but it wasn't. So then I was like, I'm just so weird because I don't like the things everybody else likes. And I was always trying to just like, well, maybe I should be this way, or maybe, and really what I was is freaking rad baddie that like needed 40 years to figure it out what it is she needed to do. But what I say to this is like, find you,
Yes.
work on you. You don't need, we ain't got time for fixing other people. And the more we sit in our own shit sometimes and like really decide that you don't want that anymore, you're going to grow in a way beyond your wildest imagination that you become the person that somebody walks by and says, oh, I want to be with that person.
Yeah.
Look at their energy. I want to be in that space. I want to be in that room with them. I want
Rather
to
than I want to
be
fix them,
powerful.
I want to be with them.
Yes.
That's
Yes. Yeah. I
important.
mean, I don't know. Okay. I don't know if you have any Swifties listening, but I was like, I'm a Swiftie. And as you see,
Well, you have to read
so
what is the quote behind you for anyone listening.
I have a quote on the back. It's a Swiftie quote that says, "We are never getting back together like ever." And that is one of my favorite quotes ever. But I was watching the New Heights podcast yesterday with one of my daughters, and I'm looking at these two, and I was so inspired. I'm like, look at these two. They are equal in their relationship. They're both hyping. He's the hype man, she's the hype girl. It seemed like, wow, this is somebody, they've both gone through whatever they went through to get to where they are. But then they just found their, they're equal, not their freaking spirit animal or their, you know,
But
like
what
soul,
animals would they be?
whatever.
She's like a dove or a
But well,
fawn.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's like I was watching it going, damn, and I was looking at my daughters, like really happy that they were watching this, or and very happy that this is out there in the world, because it seems to be, if you've got the most powerful woman in the world, when you listen to her, she's just like, I was a woman writing love songs about this kind of relationship that I was hoping that I would find. It showed up for
Yeah.
her after she, put it out there, did the work or whatever on herself. And not they don't want to be fixing each other, because that's also
Right.
exhausting.
And fruitless,
Like, we've
honestly.
got enough. Thank you. Yeah, it's like it's not worth it. And you know, we I want to say, like, after you come out of an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship, you really do have so much in you and so much power. Like, it takes so much power and so much bravery to leave. I really want to just like high five every
Yes.
person who has made the brave decision to leave. And you have already done so much. So to sit there and like be like, fuck yes, look what I've done. I'm so good. And I'm going to sit here and make the decision that I've already done hard things. So you can do hard things. And just every decision moving forward, I almost want to say, like, remember how hard it was to get out of that. Be damn sure you don't
Yes.
put yourself right back into
Right.
another one. So do that work, do that mind shift, and then be the, make the decisions. Now you get to make the decisions for yourself. Now you get to you get to have all that autonomy back that you didn't have before. And I would be surprised if you would ever want to give that freedom up again.
And it makes me think too, like, let's say hypothetically you meet someone. I'm actually thinking of a client of mine who has made the decision to leave their narcissistic, emotional, abusive partner and, well, spouse, and is now entering into a new relationship with someone they love. This person that they love, however, does still come with a lot of baggage and a lot of their own issues. And she was concerned, like, is this a red flag that they have issues, their own stuff? And so, what I did with her that I would encourage anyone listening to do, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, I asked her, do you feel like this person, number one, is asking you to own their issues? Are they taking ownership over their own issues? Are they taking care, doing things, getting the help they need, or are they asking you for that? That's number one. And number two, do you feel like you can continue like rising to who you want to be despite their issues? Like, do you feel like you need to get into a codependent tango to help them? Or do you feel like you can let them own that, you own you, and then you love each other, like kind of in this beautiful space in the middle? And I will say the issues that I'm referencing are nothing that would be a danger or anything.
Okay.
They're just
Right.
issues that a lot of humans have.
Yeah.
So I'm curious your thoughts on
Sure.
that, because the way we've been talking about this is almost slightly talking about like people who have worked on their stuff or who have risen above or have grown. And sometimes you're going to meet someone who still has some shit in the can.
Well, yeah, if depending on, I mean, at our age, if you're
Yeah.
divorced or if you have kids, I mean, my God, if somebody doesn't have issues, I'd be kind of
Yeah.
nervous. If they don't have
Where do the
some
batteries go
baggage, or
in?
yeah, exactly. You're like, wait a minute, that's a red flag. If somebody's like, I have no problems whatsoever in
I
my
don't
life,
believe in
you're like,
mental health. We're all fine.
yeah, exactly. Everything's good here. Don't look behind the curtain. I would definitely think that was a red flag. I think the fact that I love that advice, by the way, that's really important, powerful piece of information that you're giving your client, because she's not healed. She's got some
Right.
things, but I want to say that as long as if you see active
Right.
work, actively owning, it's, remember, if you were with a narcissist, they never took accountability. So the moment that you're with somebody that can take accountability for their life or their actions or something they did, even if they fucked up, even if they, they said something they didn't mean to say,
Right.
not like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're all human. We have these moments, right? Where we're not our best selves, but it is beautiful moment when somebody can take accountability. Hey, you know what I did, what I said, not cool. I'm sorry. True apology and true action and true change. When you're in that kind of relationship where then that's your moment of growth, like everything sort of needs to bend a little bit and and
Right.
heal and get stronger. That is a healthy person. And that person who has baggage, who just says like, listen, this is what I come with, but I'm not expecting you to take it on and carry it and unpack your shit and leave it here and put all my shit in your bag and
Right.
then, walk walk with it.
Right.
It's like I've got my bags, you've got your bags, and sometimes I might need you to help me with them, and sometimes you're going to need me to help you with them. But for the most part, you're both owning it. And I love being in a relationship where you can kind of call out somebody's moment of bullshit and it doesn't escalate. They are not defending, they're not deflecting, they're not abusing you. And they're like, oh man, thanks. Sorry, I didn't realize like what I was doing and
Right.
I'm going to make that
Yeah.
change. So I think we're all at this stage in our life or at any stage in your life, you're going to come with some marks and, some war wounds. Hopefully we have a better story to
Right.
tell. But it's how that person shows up for you and how are they always weighted down by their bags, then, we don't have time for that either. I don't want to be like dragging somebody in with along with
Right.
that us behind and saying, okay, like
Right.
that's exhausting too.
You have every right, everyone, you, me, everyone listening to decide like I can handle those bags, but I can't handle those. Like it is not our responsibility to be okay with everyone's issues. And I think that's important, especially for like sensitive people, empaths, anyone who's gone through any of
Yeah.
these kind of relationships. Like it doesn't, you don't earn a bigger like relationship badge or something if you're like, well, I can handle this much more stuff.
Oh, I'm so glad you're saying this because that is what I realized that I was taking on for so long because I'm a sensitive person. Um, I grew up having to take care of one of my family members. I grew up having to take care of my younger brother. I was like a mom role really early. And so everybody used to pride me on how much I could handle. Oh, you're handling this so well. And I just assumed that that's like what you're meant to do your whole life. And I was very young being told
Yeah.
that, like, oh, wow. And I'm realizing like we don't need to be handling so much. And if it's getting heavy and it's like, I got to put it down. I mean, try walking with like bricks in your hand. It's like you can't just keep
No.
doing it forever. And then people being like, look at you, great job. And you're like dying and you just
Clap for
like,
yourself. I
no,
can't. I have bricks in my hand.
look at you. And then you finally collapse over and you're like, they're all her.
Yeah.
She can't handle it after
Mm-hmm.
all. But we can't be taking care of everything. We can't be taking care of other people's shit and we shouldn't be because then we're
Right.
enabling. You become this enabler into somebody where, you know, and I don't know, we don't have time. Like again, I want to say this too. Like we have time is our greatest currency. So if we're spending so much time so wrapped up in other people's problems and other people's shit and trying to fix them, that is your own red flag. I think you need to look at too to say, why am I so concerned with other people? Like, what am I afraid of looking inward? Why am I not working on myself? Because if I think I don't have anything to work on, then I'm also like smoking it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That
So,
was like, I think the absolute best cherry on top of the advice today because there's so many other ways we could go with this conversation. Like, I mean, looking at very blatant red flags, but if people
mhm.
want to learn those and have them in their back pocket, I think you have some really awesome resources and some really cool things you're putting out. I think you called it the Bitchinary, right?
Yes.
Where do you think if people are loving what they're hearing today, but they're like, you know what, I really want to know like A, B, C, D, and E. These are the things I want to make sure are on my radar. My two questions to end today. What would be like
Okay.
the top three things you want them to keep at the very tip top of their radar? And then where can they learn about all the other ones at like some of the stuff you offer?
Okay. So I would definitely say that outside of words that I use in my dictionary, I would say the first thing is know your feelings. When something feels off, it is trust your instinct. Go back to trusting your gut. You have been given this resource by nature, and we really need to start. Women, especially, we're intuitive. Tuning in to ourselves and realizing that person it feels off. Listen the first time. You don't 8 billion people in this world, people. You don't need to be worrying about that one
Right.
person. And then I would say when someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them.
Oh, I like that.
Especially when it's like they say some bad words, they say some nasty things, or, they're just their words and just remember their words need to match their actions. So really paying attention to what somebody's saying. And I think that, again, going back to our intuition, really paying attention to what people, if they're incongruent to the things that they say and the things that they do,
Pay attention to that.
walk away.
Yeah,
Pay
for
it.
sure.
Yeah, just pay
I feel like that's a
attention.
precursor for
And
gaslighting, to be honest.
oh, really?
Yeah, well, if you think
Yeah.
about gaslighters, will kind of dribble in minor gaslighting tactics in the beginning to see what they can get away with. And so they're going to do little things to confuse you, to just kind of throw you off, and then watch how you react. And if you don't react well, if you call them out, if you don't believe them, if you stand your ground, if you emotionally individuate, they will be less likely, honestly, to be interested in you because they know they're not going to get away with it.
Oh, that's so
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. Because that brings me to my third. It's
Great.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Really just try flexing a boundary on someone and seeing how they
Love
respond.
that.
If they're, and your boundaries, by the way, can change at any point. That's why we have this autonomy. We can just say, you know what, I know I said I wanted it this way, but this is what I
Yeah.
want now. So try to flex a boundary on a person. And if they are like, cool, I respect you, awesome. And I want to say that the boundary in the beginning, when we're talking about these like first dates, it's as simple as like, hey, I'll call you later. Don't call me, I'll call you. Kind of, if they're like ringing up your phone, if they're blowing
Yeah.
up your DMs, like they have just pushed their boundary, they have just pressed your boundary. And like those are those subtle things. So try flexing a boundary and seeing how they respond. And a fourth little one is to all our younger baddies out there and like, navigating this world is you have to really pick your partner. It's so important. The person that you choose to have children with and marry with, that that stays with you. It's a big decision. And I know this sounds dumb, but it's more important than I think we ever
Yeah.
realize is that, picking your partner, even, pick the person that you could I divorce this person? Would a divorce with this person be fun? The answer's, will they be cool?
There should be
Like
a
walk
new
away.
sort of prenup of like, this is how you will behave if we get divorced.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
telling you, this conversation came up with my partner.
Really?
I was like, before I get married again, I want to get divorced first. I really want to like, let's have the divorce. Let's figure out what that would look like, and then we can move on in our life. And he
Interesting.
was like, that sounds cool.
Like, let's eat the cake before we bake it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's so important and say no, say no, say no, say no, say no, say no. Practicing saying no, just being like, I know it's hard to say it. Just be like, nope, no, I'm hard. No, I'm not here for doing that. Walk away. No is your best friend, especially if you've been in a toxic or abusive relationship. You have said yes and sorry way too many
Yes.
times, and you need to start conditioning yourself to say
Right.
no, and without no, but I'm sorry. You don't have to
Right.
justify it. Just
Yeah. I'm
say
glad you
no.
said the first date because I think people think you're supposed to wear your first date mask when in actuality, I mean, I remember on my first date with my husband saying, obviously he wasn't my husband at the time, saying, hey, by the way, I really love to go out with my girlfriends and I'm not someone who's going to like ask your permission to do that. So if that bothers you, I'm probably not a good person for you to date.
That is
First
awesome.
date.
Look at
First date. I
you.
said that because
Oh,
I kind of
yeah.
had this sense, my gut was telling me this might be my person, but I was a little worried that,
Mhm.
I don't know, I've never gone to that point where I'm like, this is my person. So I got to make sure you can like interfere with me being my person.
Right, right. What's important to you? What are your, what do you value? If you share your values with somebody and like you don't almost match completely, it's not worth
Right.
it. It's like you're not going to, why do you want to fundamentally change yourself
Right.
or change someone else? The value system is important, and it doesn't have to be it, it should be all the
Right.
values, but just even basic ones. Like I like being with my friends. Are you cool with that?
Right.
Because that's not
Right.
changed. And then they can't be surprised
Right.
later. That's the worst part with a narcissist or pathological person.
You're right.
They like knew you liked to do this. And then when you do it, they're like, oh, what? You don't want to be with me? I'm not good enough. You just have to be with your friends all the time. You're like, well, yeah, we already talked about
The
this.
irony,
So it's a
the irony
non-issue.
too, is that if the person gives you the permission to be who you are, like I know I could go out anytime I want with my girlfriends. I don't need to ask permission. It makes me, it sounds weird. It makes me feel like I need to do it less. It's almost like, okay, well, I know I can.
Right.
So I'm like, whenever I want to, I will. But I'm like, oh no, it's been a couple months. When am I going to make that happen?
Well, that's like all the kids who had curfews that were
Right.
like sneaking out, you're like, but the kids, you're like, well, I don't really like, nobody's telling me to be home at a certain time. I guess it's time to go home.
Yeah.
It's not, you really, I
Yeah.
love that analogy. That's really
Someone who
important.
lets you be you.
Be you, be yourself because everybody else is already taken.
Yes.
It's like, let's go back to like what we teach our
Yeah, no
kindergartners.
kidding.
Our hands are not for
Right.
hitting.
Crisscross applesauce.
All those things. Like maybe we just need to go back to basics when we're, coming out in the world and just like, but be so in love with yourself that you don't need anybody like that. Nobody needs to complete you.
Yeah.
They need to complement you, not complete
Love it.
us.
So, Lindsay, part of our
Yes.
boo-boo clan.
Yeah, see, I kind of digging it. I like the boo because like the boo
The boo
crew
crew.
or like,
Okay. I gotta think on this.
there's like
But isn't boo kind of
there's
also like the name for girlfriend in like
I mean, I think that like the names of everything
Yeah,
has
that's
changed. I
true.
don't think, I have they say
Yeah.
stuff and I'm like, what did you just say? They're like, you're so
Right.
Sigma, no cap.
Well,
I'm
for
like,
any
what?
of you listening who doesn't know what we're talking about, I'm trying to think of an affectionate name for you all, and I just so hit me up and let me know what you want to
Yes,
be called.
drop it in the comments because she will go and she'll get you merch.
Yes,
She'll
I'm
get you all
thinking
the
about it.
things to be part of her boo crew, if that's the one you want. So if you haven't listened to Bitch is a Bad Word, I call our listeners our besties, our bestie gang. So but it came organically. So you also we're trying, yeah, your listeners will know. They're going to drop you a whole bunch of comments about what they want to be
Yes,
called.
we will find
And
that name together. But where can they find out about your podcast, especially if they didn't listen to your episode 2 weeks ago, which if you haven't, go back and check out the part one of this conversation for sure. But Lindsay, where should they keep up with you?
well, you can find me on Instagram at Bitch is a Bad Word Pod. We're on TikTok and YouTube, which is at Bitch is a Bad Word. All the platforms, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcast, Bitch is a Bad Word is our show. And I love to say this. We have a phone number, 331 bitches. If you want to send me a DM or a phone call or just leave us a voicemail, I answer all of them myself. But just if you're going through something and you just want to drop it in there and know that we're going to listen. I love anything like send me your texties from your exties, your unhinged messages. I'll read them on my show. And yeah, like my personal Instagram, I'm Lindsay Abernathy. I don't think I ever say that first and last name because I'm going through an identity crisis of like maiden name and married name. And so I'm trying to figure that out. So I'm always
Do I
like,
dare ask what Abernathy is?
so Abernathy was a married name,
Okay.
and then but it was also my like, SAG name. It's like once you register with SAG, that's
Oh,
the name,
okay.
and then it's like really hard to get rid of it, and
Gotcha.
then just online, that's how people are. So it's like
Right.
that's just the name that's already always
I get it.
stuck. But then it's interesting, found myself in this like I was saying the other day, someone said my maiden name is Chisholm, and someone said it, and I was like, well, who is that? And I'm like, shit, I have to do some work on like my own self-identity. I don't even know what the hell my name is or what feels good. Or, and then it got like, well, why are we taking their last names? Why do we strip ourselves of all of our identity? Like I kind of went down that rabbit hole. But those are questions to ask yourself. Yeah. Maybe ask somebody on a first date. If we got married and I didn't take your last name, how would you feel?
If we got married and I pulled a Phoebe and Mike and called myself Princess Consuela Banana Hammock, would you be okay with that?
Would you be okay? Maybe wait for the second date because they might not want
not. Well, Lindsay.
But definitely, reach out to us. We've got really cool stuff. We just have officially today, what is the 14th of August, so whenever you listen to it, we have partnered with the National Domestic Violence Hotline, the hotline.org. Woo! And they're sponsoring some of our episodes that are coming out. And very cool. And they picked the guest for us. And so these women that are coming on they just know so much information and really cool. So reach out and look out for our bitchinary dropping.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming again. And for everyone listening, especially if you listen to the full series in this little setup of exploring what it's like, where blame is, what to do to get out, what do we call it, how do we know if we're in it. We're here for you, so just reach out if you need anything, and be well, everyone.
Bye. Besties.